All right, hello students. So we're going through the packet. I'm going to go through it fairly quickly because the answers are online and you can ask more detailed questions if you need. So which class has a lower median? That's the middle of the box and P1 because the P1 median is 80. The P2 median is 85. That's the middle of the box. Which class period was more consistent with their scoring? P2. Period 2 is more consistent because the box is narrower, so the students had less variability in their scores. So P2, because the box is narrower, more narrow. Which class period typically scored higher? Period 2 scored higher. Period 2 scored higher in every category except the maximum. If you look at their minimum is better for P2 versus P1. If you look at their first quartile, it's better. If you look at their median, it's better. If you look at their third quartile, it's better. The only one that's better is period 1's maximum. So we know period 1 had one student who did better than anyone in period 2. At least one student in period 1. But on average, typically P2 did better. So P2, because the minimum, the first quartile, the median, and the third quartile are greater than P1. All right, I'm going to clear the screen. To do part 4, question 4, come on, work with me. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. So when you're doing mean, median, mode, range, and IQR, you can do it by hand. It's much easier to do it with your calculator. Remember, you've practiced this many times in the past. You should have it written down in your notes. You press the stat button. You hit enter. You type your data into the list. If there's junk in the list, delete it. Go up, clear, enter. Then type in the numbers 5, 7, 9, 4, 5, 7, 6, 4, 9, 12, 3, 1, 5, 5, 5. After you have your numbers typed in, hit the stat button again, hit the right arrow key, hit enter. Double check that it says the correct list. My stuff was typed into list 1. My calculator says list 1, so I just hit enter a couple more times and it pops out with all the information I need. The very first number you see with an X bar is your mean. So the mean is 5.8. The median is something you can get by scrolling down. The median right there is 5. The mode, calculator doesn't tell you it, but you just need to see which one shows up more than all the others. There's a lot of 5s in that list. Range is the biggest number minus the smallest number. Your calculator tells you that, although it's not that hard to determine the biggest and the smallest. It's 12 and 1. So 12 minus 1 is 11. And the IQR is the interquartile range, so it's the difference between your Q3 and your Q1. 7 minus 4. So you could have done it by hand. More efficient with the calculator. You should know how to do the calculator, especially when we ask you to calculate standard deviation, which is the SX. Okay. Problems 5 and 6. Describe the shape of the box plot or dot plot. It is pretty much symmetrical. A lot of people have been noticing that, oh, well, there's this gap here on the number line, and so that looks like a tail on the left. That is wrong. There's no data there. It's just an empty number line. It tells you nothing about the shape of the dot plot. I'm asking you about the shape of the dots. I could have had a number line that goes on to 600 over here on the right, and it wouldn't change the shape of the dots. We're not talking about empty space on the number line. We're talking only about the dots. And when I draw the shape over the dots, it is basically symmetric. Is it perfectly symmetric? No. There are 5 dots on the left side of the median, and there are 5 dots on the right side of the median. It's pretty darn close. In fact, if you moved 1 dot on either side, you could make it perfectly symmetric. So this is not skewed. I want you to look at it again. It is completely irrelevant that there is an empty number line right there. Don't even look at it. The only thing that matters is where the dots are, because we're describing the shape of the data. That's the dots. The number line is irrelevant. I could put the number line on the right side. It doesn't change the shape of the dots. I'm really emphasizing this because that is a mistake I saw from a lot of students. They called this left skewed. It is almost perfectly symmetrical when you look at the dots, not at the empty space on the number line. Last one here. How can you increase the standard deviation? Well, standard deviation measures how spread out your data points are. So you move your dots so that they're more spread out. I would choose a middle point and move it as far away from the middle as I can, because that would increase how spread out the data is. So that's it for Unit 1. I'll make separate videos for the other units. Please ask questions if you need anything.